right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Thank you very much, Josh Taylor. Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, where we take your calls and opinions every night at 412-575-2600. You can also hit us up at KD Pomp at the Pony Express. Andrew Filipponi up at 93.7 The Fan. The PM team busy today. I'm sure a lot of conversation about what should happen at quarterback. And to me, it's one of those things that's going to be a week-to-week process here. I think Justin Fields continues to win. I like the fact that he used his legs to get himself out of some really bad situations there. And if not for that, they probably would have lost this game. Sure, the offense has work to do, Andrew. They have to be better in the pass game when called upon. But I just can't imagine tomorrow at noon right here on KDK Plus, when Mike Tomlin is talking to the media, he's going to say he's making a quarterback change. Do you think he will, or what are the chances that he will?
I think they're almost zero. The guy talked after the game, Mike Tomlin, about how their business is winning. So if you're out to win, how do you punish someone for winning you a game where the offense, not the offense, but the team scored 32 points and you won the game by almost 3 touchdowns? Okay, those 32-point outbursts have been so few and far between over the last few years. And I get it. Fields was far from perfect. He missed some throws, but he commanded victory. He turned turnovers into points. He had that big 4th down run after the interception that got called back because of the roughing call, and he made the most of it. So, yeah, I mean, I think Justin Fields, as a passer, has probably regressed the last 2 games against Dallas and against Vegas, Bob, but not to the point where I would want to pull the plug on a guy that has accounted for 10 touchdowns and only 2 turnovers if you count that fumble that he had in the Colts game, which I do. So 10-2 for him so far this year.
Last night on the Showdown, I brought up a question I thought had an interesting answer, or at least might have. If that interception made by Diablo stood and there was no roughing the passer, and they go into the locker room on an interception and down 7-6 at halftime, do you think there was any shot that maybe Mike Tomlin would have made a change at that point of the game?
Yes, I do. You had Russell Wilson stalking around. He was seemingly glued to Tomlin for a lot of that game. They showed a shot. He was standing right next to him with his helmet on for pretty much the entire game. I think just dying to go in, thinking that he was a blown lead or a stagnant offensive start from Fields away from getting his chance. As long as Justin Fields wins, he should play unless it's so ugly and so bad that you look at really what the defense and special teams did and say, that's the real reason why we won the game. It had almost nothing to do with Fields. Until we get to that point, I still play him. The rushing part of this is a big deal. I know we want our guys to throw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, and maybe eventually Fields will. And in games against the Colts and the Chargers, he's proven he can do some of that, Bob. But I just don't give up on a guy that's the younger of the 2 options. And also, you got to think about this. Even though Zach Frazier's injury is not long-term, it's week to week, I think Justin Fields behind this current offensive line gives them a better chance to win than a guy that's in his mid-30s and coming off a pretty serious calf injury that's kept them out of a big chunk of this season and all of training camp, or most of training camp.
I think that's the number one point. A good point there is that you got so much makeshift stuff going on with the offensive line because of all these different injuries and guys playing out of position, young players who haven't been through it. Russell Wilson may be a sitting duck back there compared to Justin Fields. So for now, I maintain status quo. I suspect Mike Tomlin will say that tomorrow, but you never know how these things go, and you can watch his press conference right here at noon on KDK Plus. You can also listen to it on 93.7 The Fan. We have a lot of callers. Andrew, we're going to get to them. We'll also talk about what's going on with the Penguins, who won a game tonight with a nice 3rd period. That and more as we continue live right here on KDK Plus. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Your calls are next. Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night comes from College Football Talk Daily. How about a playoff showdown between these two at Beaver Stadium? Would be interesting. Madness, it says here. Pennsylvania football right now is never been better. This takes you back into the 1980s, Andrew, where Pitt and Penn State both were elite programs. I don't know if I'm ready to say that right now until the end of the season. They're trending in that direction. There's a lot of football left, but I thought the Penn State win specifically, coming back the way they did, and not only that, just the creativeness of their offensive coordinator, some of the plays I saw there, I think that bodes well for them. They should be able to get to Ohio State still without a loss. And if they do, I think a chance for them is significantly increased.
Yeah, but look at it this way. Unless Penn State wins the Big Ten, they're going to go and have to play that first-round game, possibly in Beaver Stadium, but it could be on the road somewhere else. If Pitt wins the ACC, Pitt gets a bye all the way into the quarterfinals. They don't have to play that opening round game. Now, they don't get to host a game, but they would get into the round of 8, and then they would play a game at a neutral site. It could be at a bowl site, Pitt versus Penn State, if Penn State can win its first-round game, and if Pitt can go all the way through the ACC. So, yeah, I mean, we are getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but we are now halfway through the college football season, and Pitt is still undefeated, and Penn State is still undefeated. So they've gotten this far. Who's to say they can't keep it going for the rest of the season?
412-575-2600. We have our number one Cochran Go One Better caller of the night, and it is Jimmy in Point Breeze. He joins us right now on the hotline. Hello, Jimmy. How are you?
Hey, Bob. Thanks for taking my call. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I had a hypothetical question for you guys. So we acquired Justin Fields for a 6th-round pick, but if he plays more than 50% of the snaps, he's a 4th-round pick. So if we were to hypothetically trade a 4th-round pick for a Devontae Adams or pick your wide receiver, and then we didn't have that 4th-round pick, what would happen with our transition with them about that pick?
Well, first of all, Devontae Adams ain't going anywhere for a 4th-round pick, in my opinion. It seems like there's a stumbling block there, Andrew, that the Raiders want a 2nd-round pick, and they're not willing to pay any of his remaining contract, which I think is a problem. So what do you think happens there?
Well, I think that eventually it's going to get to a point where Devontae Adams squeezes his way out of there. He's got an injury right now, or so they claim. And it could get ugly because if they deem him healthy and he still doesn't play, well, then he's subject to fines. Is he going to leave the team? We've not seen Hassan Reddick show up in New York with the Jets. Would Devontae Adams walk off the set? I don't know. It sounds like his relationship, actually, and I think this is kind of hard to believe because of what happened on Instagram, but it sounds like his relationship with Antonio Pierce, the coach there, is actually on more solid ground than we were originally led to believe when this trade report first popped up. So I don't know, Bob. I mean, maybe it's something that waits until the end of the season. I don't see how watching the Raiders on Sunday why Devontae Adams would want to play another down from that organization when he's a guy that's in his 30s, and the Raiders, frankly, Bob, are looking like a team that might have a top 5 pick in this year's draft and are about to start over, you would think, with a new quarterback next season.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and I don't think you're going to see much movement here in the next couple of weeks at least. And
but maybe he's more interested in the Jets now. I mean, if the Jets win this game, I don't have the score in front of me, but they beat Buffalo. They're in first place. And Aaron Rodgers threw another Hail Mary in this game. That's 4 now for Aaron Rodgers in his career. Remarkable.
It is.
That he's done that he's so accurate on those long balls.
By Alan Lazard, too, because originally the back judge over there saw it as an incomplete pass because he did not see it. He shouldn't have made a call. The guy over there at the line judge made the call, and it was a touchdown, and it was the right call because the ball came loose afterwards. But I thought he made a really good play just to secure that ball. But you're right. Rodgers threw that how many yards in the air? 65, 70 yards in the air. It's pretty unbelievable. What's the score again, Jeremiah? Tied at 20, start of the 4th quarter. Don't change your channel. Stick here. We'll get to your calls. Let's go to Steve in Johnstown. What's up, Steve?
Thanks for taking my call, Bob. Hey, I'm just going to ask you on the new kickoff rule. Commissioner Goodell was talking about it's fairly going pretty well, but they may have to tweak it next year. Well, obviously, most of the footballs are still going in the end zone, and he said maybe you're going to have to bring it back, maybe 5 yards. So they get have run backs, but or the other thing is if it does go in the end zone, they'll just bring it out to 35 instead of 30.
Once again, the NFL is trying to split hairs here, in my view. They finally admit that that's a big part of the game that they took away because of safety rules, and now they're trying to bring it back, but they're still coveting the safety part of this thing. You can't have both, and it's turned this into a joke. I think it's awful. I think it's gotten worse. And I think if I'm a team, I'll kick in the end zone all day. I don't want to deal with anything like that. It's the same thing with trying to protect quarterbacks. And yesterday, that first roughing the passer call was a joke. And I say that because if it were Pittsburgh Steelers being called for it, I would have said the same thing, Andrew. Either, you got to play football too.
Well, I mean, Chris Hogue made it sound like he thought the officials won the game for the Steelers because he said it basically put 2 touchdowns on the board for Pittsburgh and took one off the board for the Raiders.
And he would be correct with that, right?
Well, no, not the last. Well, Jackson Powers Johnson was illegally downfield.
No, he wasn't. We went back and forth with that.
Yes.
No, I disagree.
Well, hold on a second. They showed the box. He was past it. And then Gene Steratore said on the air that he was past it. So it's pretty black and white. I mean, by that logic, should they have counted the Justin Fields touchdown pass to Pat Freiermuth because he was close enough to the line of scrimmage when he threw the ball? I mean, if we're going to get into that where we're saying, if it's close enough, let's count the play. Well, then let's count Justin Fields' touchdown pass to Freiermuth, Bob, which got called back for being past the line of scrimmage.
But I think that play, they could justify it all they want. It is a ticky-tacky call that, to me, was not even.
Well, isn't Fields ticky-tacky then if he's barely past the line?
No, because he was a yard over the line. This wasn't even close. So most of those things are very close when he just blatantly went past the line of scrimmage, I thought. That was an easy call to make. As soon as you saw it in regular motion, you didn't need to see a replay.
Well, then you agree with Chris. The refs basically won the Steelers the game Sunday.
What I'm saying is they were the beneficiary of some calls. And normally it evens out. There are going to be games where they get some of those calls. I'm just saying that the officiating
Well, they didn't even out yesterday, then.
And I don't even blame the officials. What I blame is the competition committee based on pressure from the owners and the safety, and I know why they're doing it because there's lawsuit after lawsuit, but you're making it hard for defensive players specifically to play football. I don't know. Did you think that was roughing the passer, the first one?
Well, I just want to make sure I hear you right. Are you saying that they applied the rule incorrectly? Are you saying it was the right call or the wrong call on those roughing the passer penalties?
I thought the second one was a roughing the passer because he put his face into the ground. I didn't have a problem with that one. The first one I did have a problem with because it had nothing to do with the play, and the guy was trying to you could tell clearly not trying to land on him, but he had no choice.
All right. So you're saying even with the new rule, you still thought the first one was a bad call?
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, all right. Well then, look, I'm with you to this extent, Bob. I don't understand why, if it's not late and it's not to the head, why we have to now make this a rule to protect quarterbacks where guys can't put their body weight down on guys. I think that's stupid. I think that's taking it too far.
Yeah, and I think they need to adjust that, but I don't think they can. They've made it so that it's impossible. He came in, he didn't have he couldn't stop, period. There's nothing you can do in that sense. But he went down and he did not use his weight. He tried to, if anything, somehow avoid it, which was impossible for him to do. All right, let's go to Susan in Crafton. Pony, she's on right now. Hey, Susan.
Hi, how are you guys?
We're good, thanks.
Hey, Susan.
Hey, I was just calling because I was concerned about the injury to Zach Frazier because I think he's been a really important part of the line for the Steelers. And I heard Pony commenting earlier about it's day to day, but I didn't know if you had any other
week to week. That's
week to week.
Yeah, the Steelers haven't said that yet, but I think it's more. To me, I wouldn't be surprised if he misses a couple of weeks because to me it looks like a high ankle situation. We'll find out more tomorrow, I suppose. I don't think he'll play this week. When they say week to week, he's not playing this week easy, Andrew. They got a bye week in 3 weeks.
No, they do have an extra day to get ready for the Giants because it's a Monday night game. Then they have a bye after that. So I think they dodged a bullet here. It's reasonable to think by the time they get to Washington for their first game in the second half of the season that he'll be out there. And when you saw him in agony, screaming as he got rolled up on, I thought it was an injury that was going to take him out for months, not weeks, and maybe jeopardize the rest of his season. And they've already suffered big injuries with Fautanu. James Daniels, their depth on the line is really no bueno. You can throw Herbig in there too. So they can't afford another one of these guys to go down for much longer than week to week. And that's why I don't get why you'd want Russell Wilson to go in behind Ryan McCollum, who's barely played at center. You need a quarterback who can move around and utilize his legs. And Russ could have done that 5 years ago, Bob. but not a guy that's dealt with the calf injuries really since July.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and that's why I do not expect Justin Fields.
And he holds on to the ball longer than any quarterback in the league.
And he takes a lot of sacks.
Wilson.
He takes a lot of sacks. He and Fields both were sacked heavily last year. Anyway, let's go to Kirk in Harmer Township before we go to break. Hey, Kirk, what's up?
Hey, Bob, how you doing, buddy? You always looked after him, man, my man.
Thank you.
Look, Bob, I was on the show about 5 years ago. It seems like every year we discuss these referees. I was on the show about 5 years ago when I offered the solution. The NFL should bring 2 extra referees to every NFL football game. Everybody has a bad day at work once in a while. If a referee consistently 2, 3, 4 times in a row make a bad call, it's time for him to sit down. Put a fresh referee in there and see how he does. What do you think about that, Bob?
Well, I'd rather see them become full-time employees, and if that's the case, and put a lot of work into what they do. I think a lot of them, and they're also, it's tough to make calls when you know replay is there, and you also know now we have the referee assist program out of New York. So they're going to get the call right one way or the other. I think that's a good addition, by the way, Andrew. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think that's fine. You have more angles. They're sitting there. They can override stuff just by communicating to the referee.
Yeah, and it overturned a pass tonight and turned incompletion into a Garrett Wilson touchdown for the Jets, and that ended up being the right call. I think penalties, we've seen too many, and it's created games in the NFL this season that are way too choppy, that have too many starts and stops, and the flow of the game has been ridiculous because there's a flag so many times in a game, almost every other play. So I honestly, I don't think more referees is the solution. I don't want to see more calls. I want to see less.
Yeah, I agree with that. Less flags, the better. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back with more right here on KDK+. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Josh Taylor's in the anchor seat tonight. KDK News at 11 starts in about 6 minutes. What do you got, Josh?
Bob, tonight controversy brews over plans to address homelessness in the city of Pittsburgh, plus how much money the presidential candidates are spending in our state on the road to the White House, and a special ceremony for patients and families at UPMC Children's Hospital. All coming up at 11. See you in a few minutes.
All right, Josh, thanks very much. I always felt there should be a salary cap on that kind of spending during political season, but that's another story for another day. Pony, the Penguins played tonight, and they won. They had a good third period. They got goals by Kevin Hayes and another one by Chris Letang. Early on, they had the better of the play. Montreal came storming back. Jari gave up some goals, but then he was good down the stretch. Your observation about that game?
Well, one that you didn't want to lose because of what happened in Toronto on Saturday night. Okay, you don't want this season to start to get away from you. You're going to go out west here and play some of those Canadian teams soon. So a win to get you back to sea level, Bob, and now you've got the Sabres Wednesday night at home. Yeah, a lot of quick hockey clubs, and Montreal certainly one of them with some young players. We'll see how that goes. All right, Pony, thanks. Appreciate it as always. See you back here tomorrow night. See you, Bob. Okay, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you for joining us. We'll do it again tomorrow, 10:35, same time, same station. Call us right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Stick around for KDK News at 11. Starts in just a couple of minutes.